Welcome, everyone. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest questions humanity has ever asked. What happens when we die? But we're not just going to throw ideas around, we're going to follow the evidence and see what science might actually be telling us about our greatest fear. So let's just start with this one really provocative idea. I mean, think about it. What if the entire framework we've been given for death, the one that causes so much anxiety, is just, well, what if it's wrong? For centuries, a lot of cultures have painted a picture of death not as some kind of peaceful transition, but as this terrifying moment of judgment. You know the story, right? This idea of a final cosmic reckoning has absolutely shaped our world and our fears for generations. But what if the data gathered from the very edge of life itself, tells a completely different and honestly, a far more comforting story? All right, so this is where things get really interesting. Let's look at the incredible evidence coming from near-death experiences, or NDEs, because this is where the old story starts to fall apart. So you have to get your head around this term, veridical perception. It's a total game changer. It basically means that people who are clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, are reporting things they saw and heard that they couldn't possibly have known. Details that are later checked out and proven to be 100% true. And that's the absolute heart of it. Researchers have documented thousands of these cases. People accurately describing what doctors were doing in another room, or even seeing a specific sneaker on a hospital rooftop, all while their brain showed zero signs of life. According to our current understanding of the brain, that should be impossible. Which leads us to this simple but profound idea that's coming out of all this research. Your consciousness seems to be separate from its biological host. So when the vehicle, your body, breaks down, the passenger, your consciousness, doesn't vanish. It just gets out. Okay, so if consciousness survives, what does that mean for that whole Judgment Day thing we were taught to fear? Well, the evidence suggests it gets replaced by something way more constructive. So what the sources are showing is this incredible reframing. That scary courtroom we imagined, it's replaced by a compassionate classroom. Instead of some external judge looking at a list of your sins, you experience a self-review. And the goal isn't punishment at all. It's about education. It's about growth. And here's the really wild part. People who have had NDEs consistently say that during this life review, they don't just see their actions, they feel them. They feel the joy they brought to people, and they also feel the pain they caused from the other person's perspective. And this whole thing isn't overseen by a judge, but by what they describe as a being of light that shows them nothing but unconditional love and compassion. Now, let's zoom out a bit. How does any of this fit with, say, the fundamental laws of physics or other surprising lines of research? Okay, so this is the first law of thermodynamics, right? It's one of the most basic rules of our universe. So a lot of scientists are starting to ask a pretty logical question. If all energy is eternal, why would the unique informational energy that makes up our consciousness be the one and only exception to that rule? This leads to some really mind-bending theories, like the idea of a quantum soul. The gist of it is that our consciousness might be stored as quantum information in these teeny tiny structures in our brain cells. So according to this idea, the quantum data that is uniquely you isn't just erased at death, it's conserved. It just returns to the universe it came from. And I think this analogy just makes that abstract idea feel so much more personal and real. It suggests that death isn't some final stop. It's just a transition of form. You're not the wave that crashes and disappears. You're the water that was always part of the ocean. Now, this number isn't a guess. We're talking about more than 2,500 cases that have been scientifically investigated and vetted for decades, primarily at the University of Virginia. And these are cases of young children, sometimes just toddlers, who have detailed specific memories of a past life. They know names, places, and relationships. They even know how they died. And all of these details have been fact-checked and verified. I mean, these are facts they had absolutely no normal way of ever learning. It really does suggest that maybe life is more like a school, and we're these eternal travelers who keep coming back for new lessons. So what's the big takeaway here? What happens when you put all these different pieces of the puzzle together? The NDEs, the physics, the reincarnation research. A completely new picture starts to emerge, doesn't it? All of this data from all these different fields, it all points in the same direction, away from a final, terrifying judgment and towards something more like continuity. It suggests that the whole idea of a vengeful God might be a human invention, not a cosmic truth. And this just says it all so beautifully. It's this comforting conclusion that you're made of the same stuff as stars, that your consciousness is eternal, and that when your life here is done, you're not going to find a courtroom, you're going to find a homecoming, a return to a state of love and warmth that you were always a part of. And that leaves us with a really powerful thought to end on. If you knew, deep down, that death was just a homecoming, that the fear of some final punishment was just an illusion, how would that change how you live your life? Right now, today? That's something to think about.